Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host Matt. Hey Matt.
Hey Kat, hey everyone, how are you?
Well, here we are, another episode of season 13.
Yeah, this is like episode 3 maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Um, we've, had two really good guests so far, and I expect this will be no different.
Yeah, should be a good one. So, what's going on? You had a show last night that you were going to update us on, I think you said?
Yeah, so The Art of Murder, the gala. It was a big spectacular event and it involved, the living artist, a visual artist,
Mm-hmm.
and a jazz ensemble and lots of food and even a 1930s Ford, you know. I don't really know what kind of car it was,
Yeah.
but it definitely looked very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was from the 30s, I'm told. So an authentic car always helps. And then because the play took place in the 30s, every in an art gallery, so everyone was really, so many people in the audience dressed up as well for the time,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, it was so cool. And the feedback has been like, this is a great event, and we know how hard you worked. Like, that means so much to me, to for people just to realize that, it doesn't just fall into place.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into it getting ready for something like that. And
Yeah, all the moving parts, the more you add, the more potential for something to go wrong.
yeah, yeah. So,
Uh, But I will say one really fun thing. So, this lady named Leah, she was having a birthday. And so they're like a couple of hours away.
mm,
And we don't know Leah, but they contact us and say, that they bought a table. So they've got six people coming. And, it's girls' night out and it's to celebrate Leah's birthday. So they ask, if we can like do a little something.
mm-hmm.
And we, so this is like the night before we're brainstorming and we're just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so we did it, and it turned out, really well. I thought it was really a really nice acknowledgement that it was her birthday.
That's cool.
So what we did, and I love planning these kinds of things
Uh-huh.
too. So the play is a murder mystery, and it has in it like, a psychic kind of lady that
Mm-hmm.
reads the room, and so it has all these characters built into the murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was, Uriah is the guy who was sort of emceeing the pre-show, and so he was introducing all the sponsors and, having them stand to be acknowledged.
Right.
And then he pauses and he's like, I just feel like I'm forgetting somebody. And, he's like that for a few seconds, like, I, it's like I can't remember like
Right.
that. So then up jumps the psychic. And, she's like, I feel a presence in the room. I'm getting a sense of energy. And she's going, to all these tables. And then so she starts saying these things about, someone has twins. I'm getting a sense it's in this direction. So she would go, obviously we knew where
Right.
Leo was seated. So, and then she was like, and this person, they like chickens. And so then we had someone backstage who started crowing. And, then it's at this table. I sense it's at this table. It's your birthday, isn't it? So then Leah's like, yes. And then, we have another person, cast member. They were all seated at different tables in the audience. So then they all jump up and one of them choose the jazz ensemble and they start playing happy birthday and everybody sings happy birthday and we put a happy birthday crown and sash on her. So,
Uh,
and then the play began using those same characters and they just went right on as if that was just like a part of everything. So that is really what I love so much about being immersive is that you can work in anything really.
right.
So that's, the traditional stage, you would not be able to do that same kind of thing.
Yeah, it'd be a
And
little more difficult.
yeah, it just wouldn't be because there's that barrier, between
Right,
the stage and the audience. In this case, that line there is no line really.
right. So was she
So,
surprised?
and I'm sorry.
Was she surprised?
Yes, she looked very surprised. And, I was able to capture a pretty good video of it, because of everyone being in directions and,
Right.
moving about. You can't get like the video you'd love to have, but I'm sure a lot of people were filming it from different angles because her table, like at least one person at her table knew that something was going to happen, but they didn't know what because I wanted them to also get to
Yeah,
experience surprise. But then the audience, the other part of the audience had zero idea, like
right.
that it was, any of this was going on. So it was very, very cool on many levels, and that was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that part.
Well, that performance went well, and you had a matinee, and so what's next? I hear you have a Halloween thing coming up.
Yeah, so by this time next week, I have to have the Halloween script completed, and auditions will be that following week. They'll have Labor Day. Yeah, Labor Day is the week after next. So,
Do you want to like talk about what that play is about, or not yet?
I think next week would be a really good week to talk about it. But
Okay,
it is be based on a song, so I can tell you that much.
okay,
Yeah, so I mean that's exciting too. It's just that everything is so fast paced, and I think I'll be writing this one by myself unless I can elicit some help from you you know, process. So
yeah, I'll
I
see
will
what I can
ask,
do. I'll see what I can do.
yeah, because it's better co-writing when you have a quick turnaround time, I think.
Yeah.
And also like I usually write from an inspired point, like there's something that I'm wanting to express.
Hmm.
So with these shows, it's more of a formula, can the audience be involved? Can this
Right.
happen?
Yeah.
Happen? Is it, all these things? It's not really like me writing something that I typically would
Right. With
want.
a message or whatever.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that's why I think co-writing for these is really good.
Well, we'll see what comes of that. What else you got going on?
And we have another performance on Tuesday. It's more or less performance we were supposed to have back in, I believe, April, but the weather, so it's at a farmer's market
Oh,
and
okay.
they have it's outdoors and they have performers there every Tuesday. And so we were scheduled, and then it rained that whole day and was stormy. So they canceled the farmer's market
Right.
and rescheduled us to now. So our purpose originally was to go there, perform let people buy tickets to our upcoming show.
Hmm.
Well, now we've just finished our upcoming show
Right.
and we're not really ready to start selling them for October yet. So this will be a way really just to meet more people in the public, let them know what we do, and also, try to recruit some actors, writers, anyone that
Right.
would love to be involved in immersive theater.
Well, that should be interesting. August and, you know, a little warm maybe.
Well, it's supposed to be in the 90s again.
Oh boy.
After being at 50 degrees of the night, one day this week,
Yeah,
maybe
we
a
had
couple
we,
days.
yeah, we had one morning here it was like 45 or 46.
Yeah, I mean, is that crazy?
Yeah. Well,
It's it's still August, so
August in Pennsylvania, you never know what you're gonna get.
well, I'm beginning to think, it's getting to be more states don't know what they're going to get because we really didn't have much of a spring. It just went straight to, really a really hot summer,
Yeah.
and it's lasted, and now, it's up and down, and a lot of people are sick with COVID and different things like that again.
Boy.
And, so that does make it, that's one of the hard parts, a mobile theater and events is, y- you could get sick, your actors could get sick.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course. Well, I mean that's with any, you know, doesn't have to be COVID or whatever. It could be anything that happened.
well, I mean, you could in the workplace too, because people come to work and
Yeah,
they
of
may or may
course.
not know they're sick, but it's hard to stay like keep distances from people when you're acting,
Yeah.
because and also because they may not even feel like,
Right.
or be hoarse or, whatever, coughing so much they couldn't. So, I mean, obviously, if someone's symptomatic, then they can't perform or be, at practice or any of that. But luckily, we have Zoom practices, so that does cut down on a lot of contact in that way. And the people that have been sick with, not necessarily COVID, but whether it be, whatever, strep throat, anything, they've been able to time that so that it didn't interfere. We had a healthy cast and a large cast this time. So, that was very lucky, and I'm very happy that that was the case.
Alrighty. Well, so our guest this week is
Billie Jo Jones.
all right. So
That's a name, isn't it? Like to say. I like saying that.
yeah, yeah. I wonder what, how she got that name.
I know that it's definitely a question we should ask. So one of us needs to remember to do that.
Yeah. I'll write that down.
Yeah. Sometimes feel like we need a third person to be
Yeah.
like spring, in our ear.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't
Remember
forget.
you said,
Yeah. Don't forget to ask.
yeah. Then I'll be like, okay, what did you say? What were we supposed to ask?
So she has a new song out or new album or
Yeah,
what?
she does. Some girls don't cry. And, we found this to be like a riveting kind of anthem. It's a little bit of a twist on the breakup songs, where it doesn't have to be the girl, but I do think typically people assume it's going to be the girl that's the one crying, and the guys just moved on.
Yeah. I mean, that's typically how it's portrayed anyway.
Yeah, but there are some like Keith Urban had Tonight I'm Gonna Cry, and
Mm,
I mean there are some songs, so it's not to say that every song is the female being the crier, but in
right.
general, that is the way it is. So, she has this like stance that, some girls don't cry and she's going to go on and go out with her friends or go do whatever she wants to do and,
Hmm.
not going to cry over him. So,
Well, it'll be interesting to hear the backstory on that.
yeah, and if that really, is how she is, or, has she ever cried? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it takes all kinds, but I feel like with all the breakups in the world, it's a good song to motivate you to stay strong when someone else is being a jerk, or it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk to Billy Joe and find out what's going on.
All right. Billie Jo Jones. Hey, Billie Joe, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. We're so excited to have you as our guest today.
Yes, ma'am. I am super excited to be here with y'all.
Well, so you have a really interesting backstory, and you have a new album that's coming out on the 23rd of this month. So I'm really just next week. Are you, how are you feeling about that?
Oh, I am super excited. It's my first ever country album, so I mean, it's been a long time coming. So I'm very excited and can't wait for everyone to be able to hear all of these songs that we've been working really hard on this past year.
Well, you say it's been a long time coming, so let's jump back to the beginning. What did inspire you to pursue music? Where did your story begin?
Well, I was actually raised by my grandparents since I was one. And I was raised on what I call the oldies but goodies. So Ray Price, Loretta Lynn, George Jones, Tammy Wynette, Patsy Cline, all the greats. And I loved country music, and I would make my grandparents, sit in the living room, and I'd put on shows for them when I was 3 and 4 years old. And I would sing, Shania Twain and Billy Ray Cyrus and the Dixie Chicks and all those. And I guess it kind of went from there to singing at my first stage ever. I was 9 years old. I sang at my local church, and then it went from there to performing for fairs and festivals around town and the little Opries around Texas. And then finally getting some bigger stuff when I was 18 years old. I got to open for Ray Price. So, yeah, it's kind of been, I mean, that's like the short story version, but there's a little bit of where I began.
Yeah, well, so your grandparents, did they play a lot of music? Were they musical?
They definitely were not musical. They're still not. My grandma always says that when she gets to heaven, she's going to be able to sing like I can. But they definitely cannot sing or play any instruments at all. My dad though, my dad didn't raise me, but he was still a big part of my life. And he's actually the one that taught me how to play the guitar when I was 14 years old. So I do have that, that backstory from him.
Okay, so a musical gene there comes
Uh-huh.
from dad. So you play guitar. What else? Do you play any other instruments or?
I can actually play the piano as well. I don't play it very much. I mean, I probably could if I wanted to, but it's been a little bit and I don't really have time anymore to just sit and play it. But I play the guitar. I mean, when I was in high school, I played like the flute and piccolo. So, but those are about the only instruments I can play.
Yeah, do you ever plan to like use the flute or piccolo in a song in
Oh,
your future
definitely not.
album?
Nope. Nope. I honestly could probably pick it up and remember it because, I mean, once you learn something, you really don't forget it. But I don't know if I would even be able to. But I played that thing from 6th grade to 12th grade. So
So when you were young, first in the living room singing, could your grandparents tell that, like you're more than the regular little 3 or 4 year old that's singing? Like, did they pick up right away that you were really gifted?
oh, definitely. My grandparents knew from the time that I was a little girl that that I was going to be a big country music star one day, or they had high hopes for that. They still have high hopes for that, but I mean, they just knew that there was something special about me because I wasn't like most girls. And I definitely, growing up in school, I was so interested in music and singing, and I wanted to perform and, started singing the national anthem at high school football games, and then, sang the national anthem at the girls' state basketball playoffs in Austin, Texas each year. And so they knew that all the miles and miles and miles that they did, traveling and driving me around, to different operas and festivals, they knew it would pay off one day. So they absolutely believed that with their whole heart since I was a little girl, and still do.
Well, that is really, it is nice to hear a story where you have someone that believes in you from
Hmm.
such a young age and, is all in for helping you achieve that. So, did you have an interest in songwriting or just in performing and singing?
I tried to write a couple of songs, but I definitely it it didn't come naturally to me at all. It came later in life. I think that I needed to live some more life to have some more things to write about. But I started songwriting about probably 6 or 7 years ago, and then I've won a few songwriting competitions, with that. But it's still something that I can't just say, oh yeah, this just comes so naturally for me. Like I can just sit down and write you a song about this water bottle, sitting in front of me. I can't do that, but if I have, lived it and I feel it, or I know someone that's been through it, I definitely love to write, songs about my life or about someone else's life. And sometimes it comes naturally, I guess. I can, write a song in 30 minutes. The one I wrote about my grandparents and my life story came very easily for me to write. But then other ones I, get stuck on, and sometimes they sit there for a year before I ever pick them up. So it really just depends on, how it goes. And so yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
So, when you are feeling inspired to write, how does the process work for you? Does like something, do you hear like words in a tune or, a melody, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, I mean, honestly, most of my writing comes whenever I'm just driving down the road, and I will either think of something or I'll hear a melody and I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Let me see if I can, put some words to that. And then I get home and like try to put the guitar with it and stuff, or I get someone else, that can play the guitar better than I can, that can do, fancier chords to help me out on it. But it really just kind of depends. Sometimes I'm driving down the road and think of words, or I hear a melody, or, start singing along, randomly. And that's, I mean, by myself, that's what I do. But I've been doing a lot of co-writing the past few years and absolutely love co-writing. So I'm honestly better at, listening to what someone else has and, adding in, what I think, or fixing it, or rearranging it or whatever. So I think I'm better at fixing some things rather than coming up with my own stuff sometimes.
So you've had good experiences with co-writing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Great. So how do you go about finding co-writers? Like, how does that work?
I think, I mean, it's really just kind of been, some people that I know. Like there's one lady that helped me really start getting into writing a few years ago. But she's known me since I was probably 10 years old, and she's a published, singer songwriter. And so we've wrote several together. But usually it's if I meet people, or I mean, recently. A couple of years ago, I was top 8 in the Jack Ingram singer songwriter competition in Austin, and then I was top 8 again this year for the Jack Ingram singer songwriter competition. And so while you're there, there's like 7 other artists, and we get to be paired up with them. So we get to go to a writer's retreat and write with, Jack Ingram and Liz Rose and Tranny Anderson. We're all there this year, as well as the 7 other artists that made, the top 8. And so we got paired up and, just kind of met each other that way. Or I will go to Nashville and, it's all about, knowing someone that knows someone, that can hook you up with, one of the bigger writers in Nashville, and, or you can pay to write with someone in Nashville. I've done that a few times, with some of the bigger songwriters, or just, I mean, it really just depends. Just kind of, it's really about, who I guess.
Sure, connections that you're
Yeah.
making. So what's the process like with a co-writer? Just someone just say, okay, I've got this idea, and then you start bouncing, ideas of how it might work off each other, or
Yeah. Yeah, for
both
sure.
thing. How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time when you go into, a co-write, either you kind of, you either sit there and talk to each other and kind of get to know each other, ask them some questions about, their life or who they are. That's kind of what I do. Or you go in there and someone's like, hey, I've got this song, I've already got this verse, or I'm writing this verse. What do you think about this? And then they, bounce the idea to you, and then you're like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then you'll work on it. Or if you get stuck, then you're like, okay, well, this isn't working. You take that, let's work on something else. And then, you try to go to something else. Because sometimes you get in there and it's not really that you don't mesh. It's just, that song is not working out, in that moment. So then you just try to move on to something else instead of, trying to really waste time to make something work that's not going to work. So it's kind of every scenario is different though.
Yeah. Well, have you written with, like, in the co-writing, are there like more than two people sometimes have you written with, or
Yes. So I've actually written with, I think at the most there was 6 of us in a group, which in my opinion is too many people because of this. Everyone has their own ideas and they're like, oh, well, I like this, or well, I like this, or, whatever. But you have to have that one very strong-willed person that's like, okay, well, we're going to go with this, whatever. But yeah, 6 people is a lot. I would say 2 to 3 is, I think 3 honestly is perfect. But yeah, 6 was just too many, but we still came up with a really, really, really good song that'll be on my next album. So I'm definitely okay with it. But it took a little bit longer to write.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the songs on your album that's coming out. Like,
Yeah.
how did you choose them? Like,
Well, most of the songs on the album I either co-wrote, or the guy that owns the label that I'm on, his name is Len Snow, and he owns Get Joe Records. He wrote almost all of the songs on the album except for I think 2 or 3. And so yeah, it's just really been we've just been writing some really good songs, and Len wrote some really great songs that went on the album, and one of them I wrote by myself, and that's the song I wrote for my grandparents. Kind of talks about my life story because my grandparents raised me. My dad was still a big part of my life, but my mom was and still is a drug addict, and so I've seen her twice my whole life. And so I wanted to write a song about kind of how I was feeling, and I had every intention of it, being like an ugly song, but it really isn't an ugly song at all. It just talks about my life and how I overcame that, and it's a really beautiful love story for my grandparents. So it's called She Did. So I'm very, very, very proud of that song. That'll be on the album. And I think another one on there, I've got kiddos as well. And so I'm a mom, and trying to, reach my goal of, being a super famous country singer, and it's getting there. I'm making all the right connections and doing all the right things, and had a couple of number ones, and it's going really good. But sometimes you have people that kind of want to judge you for, following your dream or not being at every single one of your kids' basketball games type thing. And so I wrote a song called The Hard Way, and Lynn helped me finish it. And that one's on my album. So I'm very excited about that. And then, of course, I mean, there's a ton of them, but a couple more that have done really well was one of my first radio singles, Back to Radio, a few months ago, hit number 1 on Texas Regional Radio Chart, and then it was number 1 2 weeks in a row on CDX True Indie, and that was Right Now Kind of Girl. And then my current radio single is Some Girls Don't Cry, and it just hit number 1 on CDX True Indie for the 2nd week in a row today. So I'm very excited for that. Hopefully we can get that one to number 1 on the Texas chart as well. So yeah, but there's a lot of great hits on there, and so we're excited to keep putting them out.
well, let's talk about Some Girls Don't Cry.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting song. And when you look at the title of it, you might think that it's going to be a slow ballad type song. But it isn't. And the girl is not reacting in the typical way that you might expect. So there's no twist there. So how did that song come to be?
Yeah, so I actually didn't write this one. I wish that I would have, but I told Lynn. So Lynn Snow wrote this song. He owns Get Joe Records. And I told him, I was like, man, you're doing really good with your, like, getting in touch with your feminine side because you're writing all these feminine songs for me. And it's definitely paying off for sure. But yeah, he told me, he's like, I've got this song that I think you're going to like. And so I listened to it and I was like, oh my gosh, like I've got to record this song. It is so much fun. I got to bring like 7 or 8 of my friends from Texas all the way to Nashville, and we filmed a music video to this song. And it was so much fun. I mean, it's obviously definitely not a sad song at all. It's talking about this girl gets dumped by this guy, and she just doesn't care. She wants to go with her friends and have a good time and, forget that guy. And so it was so much fun. We had a lot of fun filming that. And obviously, it's doing great things right now in radio. And I even had a lady write me on Instagram a few days ago. She was like, I'm a happily married woman, but I'm screaming this song at the top of my lungs. And I thought that was so funny. I was like, oh man, it's so funny that, even married people are, really liking it. So
Yeah. Well, so are you more like the girl in this song, or do you cry?
oh man, I'm a little of both, I think, because I'm a very strong-willed, I'm very independent woman, and so I'm definitely a lot like the woman in the song, but I do have I mean, depends on what it is. Like if you bring up my grandparents, or my kiddos, like I'm definitely a crier. But if it comes to heartbreak or anything like that, I've always been like, it's fine. I don't care. Like I'm gonna like pick myself up, brush myself off, and I'm gonna move on. So, but yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of both.
Well, cool. And I really do think that for the criers, it's going to be a song to, kind of pull them out of that hopeless
Yes.
feeling. And,
Hmm.
for the ones that are not crying, it's just going to be like a fun song
Oh
to,
yeah, it's like a women empowerment anthem.
yeah. So I think you just covered everybody really right there.
Yeah.
What's it like on social media? Do you interact a lot with your fans that way?
Oh, yes. I'm the only one that runs my social media. So any comment that's, ever out there that's obviously, hopefully me, because I've had a lot of people impersonating me and cloning my Facebooks. They've been all those bots or whatever that clone people. And that's been happening to me a lot. So I really hate that. But I try to comment back on every single comment that someone puts on my post. I have, built my following for several years now, and so, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that good stuff is all me. So any comment or post or anything is definitely me, and I try to work really, really hard to respond to my fans. And if they send me a private message on Facebook, I usually respond, and unless they're being weird or creepy, then I don't respond. But I try my best to stay active with my fans because I mean, the fans are the ones that are going to get me, to that next level and getting people to come to shows and putting butts in seats. That's kind of the next goal I've been working on, and it's been going really, really, really well right now. So, but I love my fans. I love meeting people after every show. I love being on stage and, performing for that 90 minutes or 2 hours or sometimes 3 hours shows. And then when I'm done, I love to come off stage and see the line of people that are, there to either buy merch or take pictures or, sign autographs. And I could do that all night long until someone tells me that I can't. So that's my favorite part of the show, though, is meeting new people.
So what have been some of the memorable performances that you've had?
Oh gosh, so many. I think my top, I mean, still to this day, is when I was 18 years old. I got to open for Ray Price, and he is, one of the legendary country music artists in my life that I have loved since I was a little girl. So, having that happen, when I was 18 years old was, so incredible. I've shared the stage with Dina Carter, Diamond Rio, the Oak Ridge Boys, Justin Moore, Pat Green, Stoney LaRue, Wade Bowen, Roger Krager, Jared Neiman, and a couple more in the works, but I can't really announce those yet. But there's been a lot of performances. I think most recently, the biggest thing that I just did, I got to perform at the Bluebird in Nashville. I made my Bluebird debut, so I was very honored to be able to do that because not everyone gets to sit, in the Bluebird. So it was pretty incredible.
Great. And Matt, she was up your way in July, I believe. So,
Yeah, you were. So I'm in Pennsylvania, not too far
Oh, cool.
from Stroudsburg, and I heard you played a show at one of the places up here.
I did. I did. That was so much fun. It was very hot, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
So do you? I mean, what's your touring schedule like? Do you? I mean, are you on the road a lot or?
Yes. So I actually play shows every single weekend, sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I've been doing a lot of radio touring this year more than ever. So I'm gone doing radio tours and then still try to fit in my, shows that I already have booked on Fridays and Saturdays. But I do a lot of full band shows, a lot of acoustic shows. We've been all over the place this year. My band got out of Texas for the first time. We did a run from Louisiana to Wisconsin to Nebraska and then back to Texas in July. And so we've been kind of all over the place. I'm playing a private party or like a company hired us out next week. I'll be in Lexington, Kentucky,
Oh,
playing a show there. And I'm actually getting to do what? I'm sorry.
that's my state. So,
Oh, is it really? That
that's
is
funny.
awesome. Yeah, we'll be over there. I think what is today? Today's Wednesday. So next Thursday I will be in Lexington, Kentucky. And I have no idea where I'm going to be. They still haven't sent me the information just yet, but I'm sure I'll find out soon. And then also this coming Monday, August 19th, it's not my debut, but I do get to sing on stage at the Grand Ole Opry with Lee Greenwood. They're doing a Lee Greenwood special at the Opry. So it'll be my first time standing on that stage. So I'm very excited about it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. I assume you said you have kids, and I assume maybe inaccurately that they're smaller,
Oh no.
younger.
I No, I'm actually older than I look. Which is
Oh,
great, and I hope I stay like that, for a very long time. But my daughter actually started high school this year. She is about to be 14. So I've got a 14-year-old, I've got a almost 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then a 7-year-old.
wow.
So yeah, I have my hands full. But my best friend is actually my babysitter, so a shout out to Jessica. Sometimes I get to give her a shout out, but she has lived with me and watched my kiddos for like 8 years now, and so that's how I get to go and travel and live this dream of mine. So I definitely couldn't do it without her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do the kids think of what you're doing? I mean, are they?
When they were younger, they didn't really understand it. But now they're a little bit older and they're like, okay, like, mom is working really, really hard for this dream and trying to provide, a better life for us. And even my 7-year-old, he knows it. He's like, mom, because I'll say he wants something from the store and I'll say, no, I don't have the money for that right now. He's like, well, can you just go sing and go play your gig and go make some more money so you can buy me this? So in his mind, he still, sees it as, this is mommy's job and this is what she does. My daughter definitely knows that it's something I've worked really hard for. And when I had my first ever #1 in Texas, she asked me to take her to the dollar store and she got a poster board and made me a sign that said, "Congratulations, Mom, on your first ever #1." So it's
Oh,
really cool whenever my kids are like, now seeing like, okay, this is what mom has been working on for for years, trying to do this for us. So it's pretty cool.
any of them interested in performing?
Uh, my daughter used to be when she was younger. Now she's 14 and she's too cool for that, apparently.
Yeah.
But my son, that is 7, he's actually high functioning autistic as well, and he's really good at remembering like the words to songs and like the beat, and like he even is on key with a lot of stuff when he's singing along.
Mhm.
So I'm like, well, maybe maybe he'll be the one kid that loves music, because the other ones, they don't. They're very athletic, like they're into sports and stuff, so they do love that.
So what's the well, I don't know. Are you looking for like Taylor Swift type of stardom or something a little less, or I mean, just want to get
I
out there and
mean,
play and
I just want to get out there and play as many shows as I possibly can and meet as many people as I possibly can and, reach people through my music. I love to perform and I would love to be able to perform in front of, thousands of people every night, even if I, was just an opener for someone. I mean, I've opened for several people, but,
Hmm.
not for like, thousands of people in a stadium or whatever. I would love to be, I'd love to be as big as you can be. I'd love to be the next Lainey Wilson,
Hmm.
I'd love to be the next Dolly Parton, but sometimes it's not always God's plan for that. I would love for that to happen, but I'm just going to continue to work hard and make music and write better songs and perform better shows each time. So just going to continue to work hard because I work really hard at what I do.
Any parts of it that you find a little unpleasant?
I would probably say that the booking side, I do my own booking, and I've always done my own booking, and I do really well at it. I played 132 shows last year, and I play shows every weekend, but the booking side of it is very frustrating. I do now have a couple of bigger booking agencies that are looking at me,
Hmm.
so that would be super helpful, to get in with them to kind of take that, load off of me. But I'm also a control freak, so I like to I like to know what's going on and, who's doing what type thing, so I'll have to learn to let go a little, but
Where are my red
booking is
M&Ms?
yeah, exactly. My booking is frustrating because people won't respond. Like some people won't respond if you're not like a big booking agency,
Yeah.
which I get that. Like not every place that that you want to try and play, can respond to everyone. So I think it would help to have, a bigger agency kind of helping me get the bigger stuff. But I've done pretty well with it so far. But that is probably the most frustrating.
Yeah. One less thing to worry about, right?
Yes.
So, have you ever been starstruck?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's so funny because it just happened to me. Oh my gosh, what month is this? August. So probably 2 months ago, I won the top 8 in the Jack Ingram Singer Songwriter competition, which is TX Songwriter U here in Texas.
Hmm.
And winning that's how I got to play at the Bluebird. But then I also got to play it's called Mac, Jack, and McConaughey at Moody Theater in Austin, Texas. And they put it on every year. It's Mac Brown, Jack Ingram, and Matthew McConaughey. And I got to sit in the center of a like hotel, like a conference room at a hotel, like one of the big conference rooms they have.
Right. Yeah.
And there was probably about 100 people in there. And so Matthew McConaughey was in there, Jack Ingram, which I know Jack, and then Mac Brown, I got to meet him. And I got to sing, 4 or 5 of the songs that I wrote in front of everyone, no microphone, not plugged in, nothing, just sitting on a stool,
Wow.
and well, I stood up because I don't like to sit and sing, but I stood up and I just see Matthew McConaughey like, clapping and cheering and like gave me a standing ovation and like it. And so then he came up to me when I was done and shook my hand. And I'm telling you, literally almost fell out. Like I was like, I'm never washing this hand again. Like, oh my gosh, it was so awesome. I hope I get to go back this year or this, next year. But yeah, he's definitely my starstruck. And I've played with a lot of big people, but
Yeah.
he was definitely the moment where I was like, oh my gosh, my face was so red.
Oh, that's funny. All
Yeah.
right, Kat, what else you got?
So I was curious about, songs, and it could be any songs, but if you had to just pick 3 songs that are important to you for whatever reason throughout your life, what 3 songs would you choose?
Oh man, that is so tough.
Hmm.
I know my number one, the first one I would pick is Keith Whitley, When You Say Nothing at All. That was actually the first song that I ever learned how to play on the guitar, and my dad taught me that song. And my dad passed away about 7 years ago, so that song just means a lot to me, and I play it at probably every single show. I try to play that song, so that's definitely one of them. Trying to think, man, that is hard. Gosh, that is so hard. I play so many songs. I'm trying to think of what means the most. I would probably pick my grandma's favorite song that I sing, and I just started singing it probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's crazy because her producer is now my producer, which is Dolly Parton. So her producer is Kent Wells, and now he's my producer that just produced this recent album and is producing my next album.
Awesome.
And so that song would be "I Will Always Love You," and that was one of Dolly's songs. So that's probably my second that I would pick. And I would probably say that the third would have to be a Reba McEntire song. And it's because it's been a song that I've played with my band for years and years, and two of my guys have played with me for 10 years now. And so that song just means a lot to us as a band because it's so much fun, and it's usually the last song that I sing, of the night, and it's a Reba McEntire song, "Why Haven't I Heard From You?" So that's probably one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So are you like strong women performers too, I see?
Oh yes, I definitely. So I do acoustic shows, but I love my full band shows because I get to put my guitar down and walk around on the stage, and I love to go out in the crowd depending on where I'm at if I'm able to, and I love to entertain. I love to get the crowd involved, and because I don't want them to just sit there and watch me sing. I want them to see me perform, and really put on a show. So I definitely try to do that.
So if you hadn't followed the stream of music, what do you think you would be doing? What was your plan B, or did you have one?
Man, I went to college for like 3 months, and until I decided to get married and had kids, and that was a disaster in itself. That's where a lot of songs came from. But I guess my original plan, I always thought, because I had two of the greatest teachers, my kindergarten teacher, Miss Little, and my third grade teacher, Miss Raby, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And shout out to the teachers out there, but thank God I did not do that because because now I have kids, and I'm like, there's no way that I could go and try to teach these kids or put up with, especially nowadays, what goes on at school. My kids will come home and tell me stuff, and I'm like, how do you even know about that? There's just so much that goes on. So shout out to teachers out there. I definitely couldn't do what you do. So.
Did you think you'd be teaching elementary kids or high school?
I always thought that I wanted to teach elementary, and then I had kids and then was like, no, I don't think I could do it. And I don't think I could do middle school either. And then no one would take me seriously in high school because I look like a high schooler. So I don't think that would have worked out very well for me.
So where does the fountain of youth come from for you?
Gosh, I have no idea. I mean, my dad was still pretty young looking, I think. But my grandma is there. My grandparents are 89 and 85 years old, and they still come with me to a bunch of shows, by the way. They are absolutely the most precious people that anyone ever meets. But my grandma is 84, and I mean, she thinks she looks old, but I'm telling you, she could probably pass for, 65 or 70. So I tell her that all the time that she still looks young.
Yeah. Wow. So of your accomplishments so far, which one are you the most proud of?
And you can't say kids.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, that definitely wasn't the first thing that came to my mind, because sometimes I want to hurt them. I don't, but no. Oh my gosh, I know. Goodness, I'm like, man. Today was their first day of school too, so they were a little hyper earlier. So I'm like, I got to do a phone call, and y'all gotta stay out of my room. But yeah, I don't. That's so tough. I mean, for futuristic, the one that's coming up in, just a few days is I get to, stand on the Grand Ole Opry stage and sing. And that's been a dream of mine since I was a little girl. And I'm not going to get emotional, gosh, but I've always told my grandparents, since I was a little girl, that they would, one day see me on the Grand Ole Opry. And so it's kind of, coming true. I still get to be on the stage. It's not my debut. And I actually tried to talk my grandparents, into coming, and being at the show on Monday, but they said they want to wait for the real thing. So hopefully that'll be happening pretty soon, but it's definitely, something I've worked my whole life for. So I'm very excited for it.
Have you seen that Ashley McBride video where she's on the Opry stage and she does I can't remember the name of the song, but
Girl Going Nowhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, that when she came out with that song, I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think I cried the first time I heard that song. That song is amazing.
Yeah, it is. I remember somebody was telling us that they actually met her in I think it was like a Walmart or something. And the girl she's also a performer. And so when they went over and said hello, or she came over and said hello or something, and she was holding an avocado, and she goes, "Oh, I love avocados." And the girl was like, she didn't know what to say, and she goes, "I hate them." How to make
And then,
friends.
why did I
That's
say
so
that?
funny.
Leslie McBride. So,
Yeah.
That's funny.
So anybody you want to work with in the near future? Any,
Oh gosh, yes.
long list?
I have my list. I think right now the top of my list is, I mean, I love Lainey Wilson. I think that, she and I would do so great singing together or performing. But I've been watching this guy I heard of this guy through TikTok. I'm not a big TikTok person, but I did hear of him on TikTok about a year ago. And I've watched him, kind of come up from performing at these little bitty shows. And now he's huge, opening for Lainey Wilson. And I would absolutely love to do a show with Zach Top or to do a duet with him. Like, he is absolutely phenomenal, bringing back that 90s country vibe that I just absolutely love. So he's probably the top of my list right now.
Interesting. I would have thought you would said someone like, Dolly or Reba or something.
Oh, I mean, Dolly's just a given.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that one day that'll just happen because we have the same producer, but you never know.
You never know.
I still haven't got to meet her yet. So hopefully that happens soon. I've been working with Kent for about 2 years now. So hopefully I get to meet her pretty soon.
Well, you gotta put the bug in his ear and say, "Hey, dude."
Oh, no, but I don't like I don't like asking for stuff like that. Like, I just, maybe one day he'll just be like, "Oh, hey, you want to meet Dolly?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Let me see if I can fit it in my schedule." Yeah.
No,
No,
not today.
I wouldn't say that, but but yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't want to ask for stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, you put it out there to the universe. Maybe it'll happen. You never know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are coming up on time, and we want to thank you for coming by and talking to us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it.
We hope that you'll come back and see us again. We want to hear more about, what you're doing and how things are going, and, find out if you, maybe met some more people.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I would love to come back and talk anytime.
All right. Kat, anything else before we let Billie Jo go?
yeah, my last question is always like, do you have any ritual before you go on stage to perform? Because I'm just fascinated by, if people have a certain thing they just feel like they have to do before they go on stage.
Oh gosh. Well, hopefully my grandma doesn't hear this interview. My dad started this thing with me when I was, well, probably before I was old enough to be able to, but we used to do a shot of Fireball together before I would sing. And so I kept that up until probably last year. And now I switched over to Rumplemint, which is just terrible. People are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you drink that." And it's honestly not every show, but if I had my choice, I would love to do that. But I think it's just become more of a habit.
Now, come on,
than anything.
It is every show.
If my grandparents are there, I'm still hiding like I'm 12 years old, even though I'm way older than that. So,
well, we still want them to listen to this episode.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, you too.